Let's put that on an album. Sell it. Okay, so this is where I started. So first what I did with this was I just listened to a lot of music. Like I listened to the track a lot and listened to a lot of other stuff to just sort of get inspired, and just made a playlist. And I didn't want to like sit down and do anything until I listened to a lot of music and felt like I could imagine a few directions. So then when I did, I was like, okay, I know I'm going to go in sort of the like reactory, glitchy sort of thing. So I started with making a beat, and I'll show you how I did the main beat, like how it's sort of constructed in here. So Reactor 5 comes with the library. There's this thing called Vectory that I'm not afraid to admit that I use because I hear it all the time on other people I respect. So I don't feel too ashamed to just use this. Because you hear it on, well, I've heard it on hybrid tracks, and then I've also heard it in apparatus tracks and things like that, and other people I really admire. So I feel like if they can use it, then I can use it without feeling ashamed. So basically, so you know, out of the box, it sounds good. But what you can do is you can like have two different presets happening, like A and B, and you can morph between them and have all your different effects. So I'll just sort of play around with this in real time, and I'll show you what I did. So I just had this bus to another track and was recording it and doing stuff like this. So, let's see. So changing the samples that I'm selecting and just doing it like this, like just in real time and recording the output, and then changing the sequence, and just kind of just going nuts like that, you know. Let's see. So, and then you know I can play around with it. And like have a constantly changing, not the rhythm changing, but the sound changing constantly in these different settings that are affecting the sound. So I recorded that to a really long audio file that's several minutes long, and just found the cool little bits that worked, and then sort of stripped out some of the elements so that it wasn't quite as crazy. Yes. Yeah, this is Vectory. Yeah, it's part of the, if you buy Reactor 5, it's like one of the ensembles that's just like, that comes with it. Yeah.
Can you mini-map the grids and the morphing to like a key, or is it just based?
I'm pretty sure you could. I've never even explored that. Uh-oh. I think our projector, I think it's maybe it's overheating. So we'll take a little pause for a second. Well, I can talk for a second, but I finished this thought. Oh, go ahead. What, someone saying something? No? Gonna say something clever? Oh, you wimped out. Freestyle? You can do a freestyle rap. Yeah.
Can you talk to us just for a quick minute about keeping things in level as you're working through projects? Is that something you spent any focus on?
Keeping them. Oh, okay. That's sort of. I mean, because it's kind of hard. Like I can't completely ignore the mix because it's hard to be inspired. At the same time, you can't really mix until you know what's happening. So it's a little bit of both. But the mixing while I'm doing stuff becomes sort of a creative decision that then, you know, because it affects the future things you do. But then usually I have to do a lot of corrective mixing at the end and corrective EQing because I tend to, you know, like usually sometimes the low end can get out of control, or there's the different songs you end up having different problems with in terms of the mix. But I do adjust things as I go because I need to, like something has to sound good. I'm not one of those people where I can like create a track and then replace all the sounds with better sounds. Like I have to be inspired by the sounds. They're essential. Like they're just as important as the notes and the chords. Like, you know, so that if I separate that out, it just, you know, I don't know. I'm not good at doing that. So it's just part of it. Okay, I think we're back here. Yeah.
Just take a step back. Someone was wondering regarding the key and progression. So when you receive a remix like this, they give you the key, they give you progression, do you figure that out by yourself?
I just figured it out. I mean, like you know, yeah, no, they didn't give any information in terms of key or tempo. It's like you can just cut out a little section and figure out what the tempo is. And in terms of the key, like you know, I mean, it depends. Like like I have a background in just in music in general and music theory, so that's no problem. But then I know for people that sometimes if they're coming at it more from the production standpoint and they have less like traditional music training, like it's you can mess around on a keyboard and try to find like where the tonal centers are that match up against the track, and then base it around that sort of thing. But I think the more you work on music and listen to music or play an instrument, that those sort of things are an intuitive process that you develop instincts on, and I don't really think about too much consciously, just because it's it just becomes part of your instincts on things. But I remember like early on, like when I first started playing guitar, like it's like it's hard to figure out the keys of things because you can confuse the key of something with something that's like related, that's a fifth, above or below, like the related keys, and sometimes it can be hard to tell like what's what. But over time, listening to stuff, you get better at that. So in terms of this vectory here, so yeah, there's probably a lot more that I'm not taking advantage of in terms of assigning this to like a chaos pad or an XY thing. That so it just was probably just the sake of like I knew I could just arm a track and record these mouse motions. But I'm sure for live performance or something, like if that would be a really cool thing to do, to be able to sit here and yeah, it is. It's not like it's steps, so it would be really cool. And sometimes like you'll get like random really lucky spots, or you can sort of halfway be in between. You're morphing between the two sets. So even with this one pattern that keeps playing, you can get lots of mileage out of that and lots of really cool sounds, but all this stuff is way too busy, way too crazy to use as is, and that's, again, that's the whole refinement process of you have something that's generated, and then it's like, how do you turn this into something that's musically relevant as opposed to something that's just like, oh, that's cool, like this is fun to play with, I enjoy doing it, but it's like musically, is it interesting? No, but it's like, but it can definitely fit in a really cool musical context. It just has to sort of be sculpted to that. So that's where sort of the beat started, was with just playing around with vectory, recording a big audio file. Let's see here. So these sessions I also did on another computer that's more powerful, so this could be a little bit troublesome, but let's see. So so here's that long audio file, by the way, of my recordings of vectory. Like it's literally minutes and minutes of for so I had like 15 minutes of that to sort through, which was cool, but also, I was trying to get this done in 3 weeks, which ended up happening. I ended up making the deadline on that, which is good. So just trying to sort through. Yes, Ian.
Besides vectory, do you use anything else?
So no, there's just other layers. Like that's one layer of the drums, and there's other things that are on top of it that are, like there's some clicky parts that happen that are separate, that are actually the same sounds from lies, like that click, those same kitchen sounds start as the clicks, and then there's also some sounds, some hits from Storm Drum, which is like a library that are in there, but they're just on top of, like, so here's the little vectory beat that I cut out of this, I believe. Let's see here. So that ended up working well with the rest of this. So I just explored this little section where like I took that little bit of her vocals and put a reverb on it, or a delay on it, and then again, like I like to sometimes build a section and just to explore with it. So just I ended up messing around with a number of different bass sounds, basically to play with. So like there's that one, and then let's see. Oh, that's the Parks and Fire sculpture thing, which I didn't end up using. There's the David kit that I always use in every track. There it is, and it's in the it's in the song. So thank you, David. Yeah, and then that's this session. That's pretty much what's happening. Is just and some of those like descending, dropping bass. Those I just do on separate tracks. So I would start with one of those bass kits that I have, like those new ones or the old ones I was showing you, and just use the pitch wheel, and I could go do like a little bass drop and do it with different sounds, and then print them to audio. So there's like a whole bunch in here that are kind of silly, I think, that I didn't end up using. Like, and I'd end up using like 1 second of that, because that whole thing, like that sound I like, but it's not as, that's just too, it doesn't work as like a line. And then there's this laser one, I guess, which I like a lot. Yeah, these are from my bass kits that I've developed. And so that's where the bass sounds. And some of these too, I've been using this the time stretch, this flex time, not in this session, but to stretch them out and get really good result. The other thing that people don't necessarily know about Logic 9 that's like super amazing is, so just like in Pro Tools, you have Verify, which can do those tape stops and speed ups. You can do the same thing in Logic. So you take a normal fade like this, and then you can control click on it and change it to slow down, and so then it will do like a tape stop kind of sound. So I mean, this sound's already pitching down, so I don't know that we'll be able to hear this, but yeah, so it's more extreme like that, right? So the other thing that's great about Logic 9 that's like super cool is you can control click and bounce in place. So I can do this bounce in place and then take this sound and with this pitching on it, and so I can put it on a new track. I'm going to mute the source. And I don't want to bypass the effects plugins. I want them to be part of it. You can include the audio tail, normalize it, whatever, volume automation. So go to OK. It bounces it in place, mutes the original, puts it on a new track. Well, it's whatever I'd highlighted. I guess I had these two things highlighted here. And then I can start that as my starting place to process. So this is why I bought a new computer and switched to Logic 9, was because of this feature, and the time stretching was enough for me to like move out of the Stone Age of Logic 7 and Logic 6, because these features save a lot of time and are like open up a whole new world of sound potential that for me that is really exciting. And so I didn't crossfade, I just did a fade out. Yeah, and then I right clicked and then so like here I can just do it to this audio file here. So if I do a fade like this, and I can control click on it, and then it says either fade or slow down. So I can choose between, so I could do slow down, and then it turns it orange. And similarly, you can also, from the beginning of a region, you can have it speed up too. So I can do, instead of fade in, I can have it speed up, and then, I don't know, this will sound silly, I'm sure, but interesting sound design possibilities with that. It's kind of like, I feel like they didn't do a good job of like publicizing this feature, because it's actually really cool. I mean, the thing that you can't do, or unless someone else knows better than I do, and I hope you can, like you can't just pitch around audio like you can in Ableton. Like in Ableton, you can just change the tuning of an audio file, and that's really what they need in Logic Next in terms of tuning, is to be able to pitch around each region differently. The other nice thing, just again, I'm sorry this is a little bit of a tangent, but these are features that I think are really useful for production. When you're dealing with this, the flex audio here, so if I have my time stretching happening, so if I have multiple regions on this track, so let's say even if I make a copy of this one here, oops, I just changed my curve there. Yeah, so if you just drag over it, well, usually when you're not in flex view, it's easier. So this tool becomes like this, and that will change my curvature. So if I go back to the flex view here, then what I can do is decide that, you know what, I don't want this one to be the time stretching to apply to it, so I'm going to uncheck it. And then this isn't touched, so your audio quality remains perfectly intact on this region, and then this one I can do whatever with. Because even if you don't have stuff stretching, I feel like, at least I always feel paranoid that it's going to affect the sound quality of it. So if I can just uncheck it so that I know that this isn't being stretched in any way, then that's great. And so I'm really appreciate that they have that function. But lots of stuff you can do with bass and stretching and this monophonic algorithm. Let's see what this sounds like. You know, so you can really do cool stuff with that. Definitely something I was exploring. Yeah, so let's see another session here. 'Cause basically, I'll jump ahead a little bit here. Let's see where I got to with this one. And hopefully this will all load okay. All right. So another insane looking session. So I started to explore some of their other sounds, like that arpeggio. It's from their track that's up here. Even though I didn't end up using it, and exploring some other melodic instruments. You can hear that little vocal echo in the background. That's from Broken. That's that vocal session I showed you with Amelia. I just took her wet effect and dragged it in here because it sounds good. And I like to do that a lot. And so there are a lot of sounds reused in this. But what's cool is, like, I think to me what that does is it helps it just sound like Trifonic, like, because these are like all Trifonic sounds. So I just put them together and it's Trifonic. So that's nice. So explored a little bit more, processing the bass, and then there's some, I muted that main beat and explored some more clicky stuff. So there's like side stick ones, and then let's see what else. There's like these 1-bit ones that I think I took from Parks on Fire. This is just like taking one of those click beats and lo-fiing it. So that's 1 bit. And let's see what that looks like here. So, and then so this is just really bit reduced and sample rate reduced. And then just made sure it was really tight, because sometimes when you do that, the timing gets wonky with these spaces in here. So worked on just getting that all tight and getting...
Sorry, what process of bit crushing did you use for that?
Yeah, I used Lo-Fi that's in Pro Tools. Yeah, Bit Crusher and Logic's really good too. I mean, anything, like, especially with these clicky sounds, like, they all sort of work in the same way, especially when you get down to 1 bit. Like, I feel like bit crushers react differently, like, on subtle settings, especially the sample rate ones. Like, you can get a lot of different qualities, but when you get down to 1 bit, it's just 1 bit. So not too much else to it. So it's just trying to explore, still here, figuring out the direction of it. So this instrument, this Kim, it's a Thai instrument. I actually own one of these, but it's way too hard to tune. So this sample kit is from Sonic Couture. They make an instrument called Kim, and it's like pretty cheap. I think it was like $50 or so. And it's really nicely sampled, and it sounds very realistic, I think. So definitely really like that. And let's see here. Yeah, so you can see here's the broken box. That's from Amelia. So that's that part being developed. Let's see what else is cool here. I'll show you one of these OS 9 sessions real quick. This is recent, but not so recent where I had the new computer yet. So this was the last session on my old gear. So let's see here. Apply. And then I'm going to sort of we'll look at this one here, assuming this will open. Okay, so here's where I do a lot of my editing is OS 9, as I've talked about. So, but it's always where I can pull things together, I feel like. So it's pretty disjointed, but I'm just exploring the different sound possibilities with it, and cutting out little slices. So looking at everything on a grid here and trying to figure out what works and what doesn't. Trying to customize this bass part a little more. And get it, do things where I transition, like I do a lot of this portamento, like doing the speeding up and slowing down stuff in Logic or using Verify and Pro Tools. And then I have some other drum aspects in here. So that's the reactor part. And then there's also this, let's see. Little side stick action. Then I've got Charlotte's vocals, and let's see, here's that laser bass. Just sitting there, and then I did it backwards so that it goes up to transition out of it, because then that's always a good way to make a line coherent. Is like, have it something pitch down, you have something pitch up. Kind of works, makes it work out okay. And let's see here, and then I've got those lo-fi things. And then to take that further, I've got the ones that I use from Lives, those crazy. So I threw those in there. Use that SFX machine more to process these, like modulating the delay time. So getting like all kinds of outer space sounds, but together that all kind of works. Yeah, it will.
So through all these sessions, are you bouncing out individual files and re-importing them? Because you apply the processing in a previous session and you read.
Yeah. Yes, yeah. I mean, now that's bounce in place. That's why I love bounce in place, because it makes it easier. Also, yeah, because switching between sessions and computers, I mean, it just takes forever. So this was definitely, all this took a long time because it was bouncing things, bringing them into new sessions. But it also helps me with my workflow in terms of coming up with ideas, like, because it just makes you think about every detail, because that process, yeah, Henry.
How about tempo? You want to change tempo?
So yeah, if I wanted to change tempo with this, I'm a little bit stuck unless I have everything cut into slices, or if I use like the flex time and have it all my transients map, So that's obviously the biggest problem of just working primarily with audio as opposed to working mostly with MIDI. But a lot of times I do have things all sliced up, and so you can change tempo. It's kind of like what Recycle used to do. If you have everything cut at its transient point and it's on this tick-based grid where it's not absolute time, it's all relative, then you change the tempo and everything's, the start points stay the same, and you can just remove the overlaps and it sort of adjusts with the tempo. But for certain things, it doesn't work as well. So yeah, and like with this, I sort of settled on this tempo, and that was that. I didn't even think twice about that. So let's see here. So then I'll show you just a little bit of like the bass, another one of the little bass patches in it, and then I'll show you one of the last sessions where it sort of comes together. Yeah, I don't have this thing on my computer. Joys of loading big sessions with way too many things happening in them. And yeah. All right, so let's see. So that's all pretty busy to listen to, but I started to explore, I was trying to explore different things at the same time, explore the vocals, figure out the different bass parts and things. Let's see where I have this. Oh, bass kit 12. So let's see. So this is another one of my kits that I like, and when I bit crush it, it sort of brings it out. It adds some higher harmonics in it, because without it, it's just really just sub, and this adds a little something. Although right now I'm not hearing much of a difference. But this just has a slight sort of vibrato to it, which I like, because it kind of rocks the sub. And so that's what the bass line is mostly made out of, is this patch with those other little like laser bass hits that happen every once in a while. And that's how that's all constructed. The other element of the beat, I guess, that's here that you didn't hear before, this is from Storm Drum. No, that's not from Storm Drum. Oh. Okay, this time I think I really did do this wrong. Yes, okay. This has to be in universal track mode. And I have to relaunch the session, but I'll launch the next session, because you get the idea of this one. Okay. So, yeah. That has to do with how it deals with stereo files. So when I'm dealing with OS 9 sessions that are with Pro Tools hardware, where it's not interleaved, they're all split, then it will open those properly, basically. Like I can use core audio, and I can read the split stereo files, and I don't have to change much. But then when I go back to like a normal session, it doesn't deal with the interleaved, like it stereo channels properly. So I don't fully understand what universal track mode does. I just know when I need to switch to it. But yeah, I mean, it comes down to the handling of stereo stuff. So, is this load?
What are your feelings on Sony Acid?
I don't know. I've never used it. Well, okay. I guess the only thing I do know about it is that apparently that's what Trent Mahler used to use. So if Trent Mahler uses it, it must be something good about it, because that's someone who, production-wise is, that's what anyone could ever aspire to. Like, I feel like his production is just like top, and musicality as well. But that's all I know of Acid. I've never used it. So I'll load this up, and let's see. I definitely don't want to launch AU Manager. Okay, so here's where it starts. This session's getting kind of big, and this is after probably like towards the end of it, like after 2 weeks or whatever, working on this. We're at most of the elements in here. And some nice, I did a lot of panning automation in OS 9 to get these stuff like So this is the original version where I had vocals starting right away, which I later sort of abandoned that whole approach. But as you can see, there's just lots of elements in here, and everything is kind of scattered out, and as mainly audio. And then I do have some MIDI tracks in here at the bottom of like. This is another bass kit that I have, like really harsh sounding. I don't have atmosphere on this computer. This is a kit that I made that was actually really useful. This was started as just an 808 kick drum, and just at one pitch, and just doing as much processing as I could, just doing like spending a few hours. And so I just made a kit of like. Just running it through all kinds of different plugins. So like lots of options. So like that, you never run out of 808 stabs that I could use, basically. And it's been very useful. I use it a lot in this track for a lot of those hits, or those something from here. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it in terms of like what's different about this or production-wise. The rest is just sort of, layering musical elements are good, and So unless there's if there's any more questions, otherwise I think it'd be good to get Lawrence up here to talk about some of the business end, and then we can answer more questions just about stuff. Yeah. Yeah. So my favorite is I have a Gretsch White Penguin reissue. That's awesome. It's beautiful. I really love how it sounds. I bought that several years ago now. And that was my first really nice guitar. I mean, I have lots of other guitars that are great that I use, but that one's actually really nice. And the other one that's sort of the workhorse guitar that I like a lot is I have a Hagstrom. It's one of the new Hagstrom ones that they're pretty cheap. I think it's made in third world country and in under $1,000 range, but they're really nice. So I really like the sound of that. And then I also have a Yamaha guitar that I've had since I was 11 that I really like, and I totally replaced everything in it. The pickups, it's been refretted, so it's kind of a whole different guitar, but it has sentimental value. So there's that, and then I really like I have a nylon string classical guitar that I really like a lot too.
One more question about the vocal processing on Wise. Are there specific frequency ranges you leave each individual vocal layer in?
Not really. I mean, not that it's again, it's sort of context based. What needs to happen with it in terms of how it was recorded and what stands out. Is it is there too much? I mean, a lot of times in that 200 to 500 range of muddiness that can happen in certain rooms, sometimes that has to be EQ'd out. But I don't know. It really depends on the voice, and it's hard to generalize. I guess with background vocals, a lot of times those I can if they're just blending in, I'll cut out more low frequencies in them, and you can also tune auto tune or Melodyne really hard background parts if they're not happening alone, and it ends up sounding just more coherent with the main vocals. That's something I do. Also, you can put a lot more reverb sometimes on background vocals, the lead vocal, unless it's shoegaze, My Bloody Valentine, or some 80s thing. It's you don't want a ridiculous reverb, although sometimes I'm known to use too much reverb. But the background parts it can be pretty wet and they'll blend in okay. Yes. Okay.
The first question is, is there anything you do differently when you're writing with vocals or without?
Yeah, I think with vocals, I mean, the vocal is definitely the focus. I don't like things that sound like it's a vocal that's plopped on a cool instrumental track, and sometimes that can be hard to so really have to pay attention to the vocal, which can be really hard because because I don't sing and I'm not a vocalist myself. I feel that I tend to want to fill up that space with melodic things, but usually melodic things compete with that space. So it's trying to leave clear the main melody portion, and then I can fill in around it, when there's gaps in the vocals, to either fill it with effects that like delays that sort of swell up, or some other response, if a phrase ends and then have an instrument respond to that phrase musically, that works as well.
The second part is you have a lot of the way you write seems to be very sort of static audio parts. Is there anything that you do to translate that to the live experience so it's more organic?
That's a ongoing process. So right now it's a little hard. What I try to do live is, I'll play guitar, play some of the parts live. And so by the way, so tonight there's Love Tech thing. Okay, yeah. So I'm playing at that 11, and so there's a couple things related to that. So one, there's also a host of wonderful musicians playing there. There's Laura Escudez back there, and Timo Priest, who's Lucid Mechanism, is playing, and then Henry Strange is right there too. So they're all playing tonight, and it's going to be awesome. And you get in for free. And then also, they're doing an Ableton Masterclass here tomorrow, and you should talk to them about maybe a little special secret discount for the people that are here. And also, I'm going to talk for a few minutes tomorrow about Ableton stuff. But yeah, so that's going to be a fun thing tomorrow, and that's my little pitch too. Yeah. So Lawrence, do you want to talk a little bit about some of the marketing and the brain behind this whole thing that keeps it floating?
Okay. Do you guys need a 2-minute break or something? Or do you guys want to go break? Yes.
Yeah, let's take a few minute break. Okay.